The primary purpose of this video is to demonstrate the use of the Option Income Strategy Universal Filter Spreadsheet for subscribers and prospective subscribers. Option Income Strategy is abbreviated OIS for brevity purposes and represents strategies based on the sale of overvalued options to generate a reliable income stream. Examples of OIS strategies would include condors and butterflies, as well as many different types of hybrid or less conventional strategies. Before demonstrating the spreadsheet, I would like to first explain the origin of the OIS universal filter. I introduced the OIS universal filter in my recent article titled Option Income Strategy Trade Filters, which is now available on Amazon in both ebook and print versions. Option Income Strategy Trade Filters is a 100-plus page, in-depth article which represents the culmination of years of research into developing a systematic framework for optimizing the timing of option income strategy, OIS, trades. The research was based on the analysis of over 15,000 OIS trades, each with a comprehensive set of objective, tradable, entry, and exit rules, all of which are provided in the article. The OIS strategy backtest results for 10 different types of filters are evaluated in this article, including unique filter combinations that delivered exceptional results. The results of over 100 different backtests are provided in the article as well. The only proprietary filter introduced in the article is the OIS Universal Filter, which is available as a monthly e-subscription. Let's look briefly at the results for the OIS Universal Filter before moving on to the spreadsheet demo. The results were derived from 15,434 managed OIS trades on 3 different equity indices: the RUT, the Russell 2000, the SPX, the S&P 500, and the NDX, the NASDAQ, from early 2004 through early 2016. 3 different performance metrics were included for every backtest. The first, profit factor, represents the ratio of cumulative gains to cumulative losses. For example, a profit factor of 5.15 indicates that specific backtest generated $5.15 of gains for every $1 of losses. Obviously, we would prefer higher profit factors. A profit factor of exactly 1.0 would indicate a break-even strategy. Profit factors of less than 1.0 represent losing strategies. The second performance metric is the percentage of winning trades. Again, we would prefer the percentage of winning trades to be as high as possible. The final performance metric is the average return on margin. Again, the higher, the better. The first row represents the unfiltered trade results for all 15,434 trades. So as you can see here in the first row, the profit factor counting all 15,434 trades was 2.10, meaning on average we generated $2.10 of gains for every $1 of losses incurred. In addition, 85.1% of the unfiltered trades were profitable, and finally the average return on margin over the 15,434 managed OIS trades was 3.22%. In other words, on average, that strategy was profitable even with no filtering at all. So as you can see, the unfiltered trades were profitable, which demonstrates the effectiveness of OIS trades on the equity indices. The remaining rows represent the performance results for the OIS Universal Filter, which is a non-optimized proprietary algorithm based on both price and implied volatility. The OIS filter algorithm calculates the OIS score, which is then used to filter the OIS trades. There are 3 primary OIS score regions in the table. OIS scores less than negative 120, OIS scores between negative 20 and negative 120, and then finally positive OIS scores, or OIS scores that are greater than or equal to 0. Let's review the performance metrics of each region in relation to the unfiltered metrics. So again, the unfiltered scores, or performance metrics, were 2.10 for the profit factor, 85.10% winning trades, and an average return of margin of 3.22%. So let's look at the first region, which had OIS scores from negative 120 to negative 200. As you can see, the profit factors were all less than 1.0 in this region, which means that by definition they were all losing strategies. In addition, the percentage of winning trades ranged from 61.72% all the way up to 70.18%, which again were significantly less than the percentage of winning trades of 85.10 for the unfiltered trades. And finally, the average return on margin for back tests within that region of negative 120 to negative 200 were minus 3.67 all the way up to minus 0.83. So again, by definition, these were losing strategies in that region, which makes sense. Again, the purpose of the OIS score is to identify both favorable and unfavorable environments, and by definition, these are the lowest OIS scores, which is the least favorable environment for entering OIS strategies. As a result, we would expect the results from this region to be worse than the unfiltered strategy itself. So let's take a look at the next region. The next region was from minus 20 to minus 100, OIS scores of minus 20 to minus 100. And again, relative to the unfiltered trades, we see that the profit factors in this region range from 1.16 to 1.98. Percent of profitable trades ranged from 75.32 to 84.89, and the average return on margin ranged from positive 0.99% to 3.16%. So again, in this region, we actually see that despite the negative OIS scores of minus 20 to minus 100, we see that the strategies were in fact profitable. But interestingly, they were not as profitable as the unfiltered trades. So again, the unfiltered trades had a profit factor of 2.10 compared to profit factors of 1.16 to 1.98. You can see that the percentage of winning trades in this region was systematically less than the percentage of winning trades for the unfiltered trades of 85.10. And then finally, in each one of these back tests as well, the average return on margin, although positive, was again less than the average return on margin for the unfiltered trades. So again, we would expect that, because the OIS scores were in fact negative, which means that the environment was unfavorable. Despite this, just due to the sheer profitability of OIS strategies, they were in fact profitable, but they were not as profitable as the unfiltered strategy results. And finally, the last region of the table represents positive OIS scores, or when the OIS score was greater than 0, greater than 20, greater than 40, and so on and so forth. In this case, the profit factors ranged from 2.29 to 20.69, compared to the unfiltered profit factor of 2.10. The percentage of winning trades ranged from 85.86 all the way up to 98.36 for the highest OIS score of those greater than 100, and then again those compared favorably to the percentage of winning trades of the unfiltered strategies, which was 85.10, and then finally the average return on margin ranged from 3.46 all the way up to 8.13% per trade, which again compares favorably to the average return on margin of 3.22%. So once again, this is what we would hope to see for OIS scores that are positive. We would expect to see that being as a favorable environment for entering OIS strategies. And in doing so, we can generate the results that were consistently better than the unfiltered trade results, which is again what we would hope. The final note is the extremely high correlation between the OIS score itself, the OIS filter score, and the both the percentage of winning trades. The correlation was 0.996. Again, a correlation ranges from -1 to +1. So what we see here is that the OIS score was almost a perfect predictor of the percentage of winning trades. In addition, the correlation between the OIS score and the average return on margin was almost, again, perfectly positively correlated at positive 0.994. So that concludes the brief discussion of the trade results, the historical trade results for the OIS filtered strategies. Now let's move on to the spreadsheet demo. There are 5 tabs on the OIS Universal Filter spreadsheet: Disclaimer, OIS Score, OIS Implied Volatility, or OIS-IV, OIS Price, and Convert Date Format. On the OIS Score page, the first step is to accept the subscriber terms and conditions and enter the monthly macro password. The passwords are available on the Restricted Subscribers page on the TraderEdge.net worksite. Let me just briefly highlight that. So this is where we would accept the terms and conditions, and then this is the area that we would actually enter the monthly password. Again, that only needs to be done once a month, and once you've accepted terms and conditions and saved the spreadsheet, you won't need to modify that either. So again, to select that, we would just use the drop-down box and select yes, and then copy and paste the appropriate monthly password before continuing. So the next step is to begin by running the clear all and calc off macro. So let me just briefly highlight that. So the clear all and calc off macro does exactly that. It clears all of the existing data, and then it turns the calculations off for all the intermediate calculations until we're ready to do the final set of calculations. So we click on that box, and it clears out all of the data, and it actually moves us all over automatically to the OIS Implied Volatility tab of the spreadsheet. On the OIS Implied Volatility tab, we select the appropriate IV file name and path, and we import the data. So again, let me highlight that. So we can see here up at the top is the file name, which in this case is RVX Daily Prices, which corresponds to the implied volatility data for the RVX index, which corresponds to the RUT pricing data. And then finally, there's a path that's notated here, which again can be your choice of whatever path you want. In other words, wherever you want to store that data, you would actually store the data files for the implied volatility in that specific directory. This just tells the spreadsheet where to look for that data itself. All right, so once we've entered in that data, we can actually use the drop-down box to do this. In this case, I've only actually entered in one file in the spreadsheet itself. And then once we've done that, you click on the Import CBOE IV Data button at the top right. That automatically imports the data. We then do the same thing on the OIS Price tab. So on the OIS Price tab, we select the appropriate price file name, in this case from the drop-down box in E1, and I've again listed a single pricing file there for example purposes, which is the RUT table, which is the historical data for the Russell 2000 index. Again, the path name is the same, and we click on the Import Price File button at the top right, which is a macro, which automatically imports the data from a Yahoo formatted file. In other words, you're able to use free data from Yahoo for this purpose, just like you're able to use free CBOE data for the implied volatility data. We click on the Import Price File, which automatically imports the pricing data for the Russell 2000. And then finally, we return to the OIS Score tab, and then we'll use the push button macros to generate the data. So again, we've turn the calculations off, we've imported the implied volatility data into the respective tab. We've imported the historical price data into the respective tab. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and calculate the OIS scores using the Calc OIS score macro. Now that we've generated the OIS scores, let's briefly review how to use the spreadsheet and where the scores occur and how to interpret them. So the first thing that you'll notice is that in the RVX column, which corresponds to the historical implied volatility data, you'll see a series of NAs, and in the OIS scores at the top, you'll see blank cells. So in essence, that is not an error, because going back to 1987, the RVX data does not exist, so we're not able to calculate OIS scores. So that is not actually an error in this particular case. However, if we go ahead and input a cell that actually is in the appropriate region, so let's move down towards the bottom of the spreadsheet, what we see now is that if we moved all the way down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, which represents, for example, the date 8/10/2016, which was the latest piece of data that was included with this file, the price of the Russell 2000 index on that date was 123.27. The RVX index, which represents the implied volatility for the Russell 2000 over a range of options in the matrix, is 16.95%, and the OIS score was 22.8. And again, referencing back that it could be anywhere between, let's say, -200 and +100. So that was a modestly favorable environment. In addition, the spreadsheet, any of the blue cells in the spreadsheet represent cells that you can actually use as inputs. So you'll notice up towards the top of the spreadsheet itself, I've actually already entered in 8/10/2000, which actually goes ahead and looks up the price for the Russell 2000. It actually also looks up the implied volatility on that date, and then finally it looks up the OIS value on that date as well. So you can input whatever date that you want here, which will then go ahead and retrieve that data and pull it up to the top of the spreadsheet. That just makes it a little bit easier to use. In addition, what I've also done is I have actually entered in, or allowed you to enter, a standard deviation range. In this case, I've entered in a range of -2 sigmas, which we're identifying very poor environments for entering OIS trades, all the way up to a +1.0 sigma, which represents favorable environments for OIS trades. So the advantage of being able to do that is, once we have all of the historical data for the Russell 2000 and for the RVX index, we're able to calculate the entire series of OIS scores going back historically, and calculating both an average and then also deviations from that average. So a -2 sigma event would be, in this case, a OIS score of -103, and a +1 sigma event would be an OIS score of +46. So we can use those as indicative of both unfavorable for the -2 standard deviation event and favorable for the +1 standard deviation event environments for either entering or exiting OIS trades. So the purpose of that is we can just easily color code the results. So what we see here is for the region at the top of the diagram from 7/8/2016 to 7/15/2016, I've color-coded those, which indicates that those are all beyond or worse than a -2 standard deviation event. So in a situation like this, if you actually had an OIS strategy in place at that time, it would be optimal to exit that strategy and get out of that strategy, because it's a very unfavorable environment for holding an OIS trade, and you certainly would not enter a new OIS strategy at that given point in time. In addition to that, we can move up a little bit and we can see a more favorable region immediately before that, from 6/14/2016 to 6/22/2016. All of these entry dates would have represented very positive environments for entering OIS trades, with deviations or positive sigmas of greater than 1.0. So this range from positive OIS scores of positive 47, 51, 56, 65, and so forth, all would have indicated positive environments for entering an OIS strategy at that time. Now that I've explained how to use the spreadsheet, let's look at the final tab of the spreadsheet that I have not talked about, which is the Convert Date Format tab. If you use the macros to automatically import the data, you don't need to use this tab, but if you have a separate data source that you would prefer to use, for example, such as CSI, that actually has data in a different format, for example, in a format of year, 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 month, month, day, day, then you might prefer or might want to use this tab of the spreadsheet to automatically convert it. So essentially all you have to do is copy and paste the date column here in the left-hand side, and then it will actually automatically go ahead and calculate the correct date format for use in this spreadsheet, which you see on the right-hand column under date, and then you would simply copy and paste that column into the respective OIS score or OIS IV tabs, and then use that data directly once you've done that. So that completes our spreadsheet demo. So let's move on for a quick summary on the resources page. The primary purpose of this video was to demonstrate the OIS Universal Filter Spreadsheet for subscribers and for prospective subscribers. If you are not currently a subscriber, the most comprehensive source of information on trade filters for OIS strategies is the article that I mentioned earlier, Option Income Strategy Trade Filters, and it is again available on Amazon in both print and ebook formats. A section of this article is also reproduced on the Trader Edge website for you to review. If you're not currently a subscriber, new subscriptions to the OIS Universal Filter, which includes the spreadsheet, are also available via the link provided on the screen. Finally, you will also find blog posts, links to my other books, links to discount offers from affiliates, all of which I use in my proprietary trading. If you have questions about the OIS Universal Filter or about the article, you can contact me via email at bjohnson@traderedge.net. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.